Well, hello everyone. Still giving a few minutes for everyone to join, but I just want to say hello and welcome to the Pathways to Employment webinar series. Today we are on creating second chances with the E2E network with Rusty Bechtold. Thank you for taking your time today to join us. And in this webinar, we hope that you learn about the new Entry to Employment Network, a program that is already helping second chance job seekers secure access to job offers before leaving prison.
Thank you, Lisa. And just a little bit of housekeeping before we really get into this. We want this presentation to be as interactive as possible. So we love it when folks are adding questions into the question pane. You can find that by navigating to your floating GoToWebinar toolbar. It might not be floating, it might actually be docked. And if it is, it's kind of in the top right. There's a little chat icon and a question icon, and the question one is what we actually use for events of this nature. Go ahead and add your questions throughout the presentation, but we will actually address those questions at the end. Also, as Lisa was saying a couple minutes before we started, if you would like to add in the question pane, which is our kind of de facto chat, where you are attending from today and your organization name, that would be super as well. One more thing before I forget is that if you are joining us on mobile, go ahead and the best experience is going to be by downloading the GoTo app on your mobile phone. There will be a couple of videos that will show today, and that will be the most optimal way to hear the video sound.
Okay, first, a quick agenda of what we're going to go over today. First, we're just going to introduce our presenters, and then we're going to discuss our Pathways to Employment webinar series and give a brief overview of who we are here at Geographic Solutions and an overview of CALPIA, or the California Prison Industry Authority. Then we will discuss and Rusty will answer questions that we have created about the E2E network and recent reentry trends. And at the end, we will have a Q&A and the audience will have a chance to ask Rusty some questions.
And my name is Evan Brenner. I am the Marketing Content Team Lead here at Geographic Solutions.
I'm Lisa Grimes. I'm the Digital Marketing Analyst here at Geographic Solutions.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rusty Bechtold. I'm the Assistant General Manager of Workforce Development here at California Prison Industry Authority.
And Rusty, thank you so much for being here today. The Pathways to Employment series it started in actually December of 2020, and it was kind of interesting or unique, I guess, timely that first episode was actually on reentry employment and touched a little bit on Voss Rio. And from there, we moved to a lot of different topics, from remote work to upskilling for students. There's been a lot of great topics that we've talked about in Pathways to Employment, and we actually have a resource on our website at geographicsolutions.com that shows all previous episodes if you would like to check that out.
So a quick overview of who we are here at Geographic Solutions. We were established in 1992, and we are the nation's leading provider of online workforce development software. And so we offer software solutions for workforce development, labor market information, and unemployment insurance industries. We have developed solutions for states and local governments in over 40 states, and we are headquartered in Palm Harbor, Florida, and have a West Coast office in California. And we also have a number of over 500 plus employees.
And growing.
Mm-hmm.
And the California Prison Industry Authority, or CALPIA, provides real-world training to incarcerated individuals so they can succeed when returning to their communities. It's self-funded state entity. It provides job skills to approximately 5,700 individuals in California's Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation prisons. One thing that really stood out to me that I did not know until really researching this is, well, not researching, but practicing and getting to know Rusty better, is that because of a University of California Irvine study, CALPIA participants have a 15% return to custody rate after 3 years, which means that 85% of all CALPIA participants do not return to prison. I think that's pretty outstanding.
So on to the first question. Rusty, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, so for your first question, how did the idea for entry to employment program get its inception point, and how was that groundwork laid?
Yeah, well, I'm a true believer. It's all about timing, and PIA has always been looking for a manageable and meaningful way since inception to connect real on-the-job training to our real employment process. Excuse me. Trained to real employment process and real employers. It's always been a goal of ours to try to manage that. So, past practices of providing, the how-to guidance has always been a good start. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners have a lot of how-to guidance on how to get a good start and great references. But, and from my perspective of practice, there's nothing better than experiencing the real thing. So there's some virtual examples that we have that prepare us for us, but in regards to actually doing the real thing, is something that I've always strived to do. So again, all about timing, we've always tried to look at this, but it just so happens in the last few years, we had a prison to employment initiative here in California, and it involved many other government agencies involved in it. And it was the first of its kind, even from my experience, almost 30 years of correctional experience, of getting multiple agencies together to deal with how we employ incarcerated individuals inside of an institution. And so we actually bit off one more bite off the apple, and that is that we wanted to hire these individuals in government civil service positions. So for those on the call who have any government experience, it's not always the easiest to apply and get involved in government civil service jobs, even from a non-incarcerated standpoint. But here we wanted to offer actual jobs to civil service, actual jobs to incarcerated individuals while they're incarcerated. So when they were to get out, they would actually have the ability to go and get that employment in a civil service classification. So for instance, our Caltrans or transportation side was a volunteer or a participant, and they actually offer jobs. So we would actually go into an institution over a 3 to 6 months time span, perform the entire operation inside the institution, and at the end actually hand them a letter for those qualified candidates with a phone number and an email address and say, hey, I have a job. And so that's where that initial idea came about in regards to doing that work. And the downside is that we only did this one time a year. And so we went to one institution one time a year. We involved from the very beginning approximately 100 incarcerated individuals. We ended up with 20 or 30 at the end with anywhere from 5 to 20 qualified candidates. But what we were leaving is the big vacuum. When we stepped out of the institution, I had wardens, I had staff, I had correctional officers, I had incarcerated individuals. I had all of these individuals coming to me saying, we need more because we have all these individuals that leave every day with no direction and a job. But what you provided here was a direction and a job. But we only had this ability to do a one-stop shop. So we started, talking about what happened to the days of old of, a career center, of being able to go to one location and just, finding a job or a location. So we started thinking about how do we leave something in place long-term for individuals to go to in an incarcerated location so that they could start that process at any time that they're going through the release process. So all of that stuff started to be talked about. And of course, in today's world, nothing is done with paper and a pen and showing up in your suit and tie or a nice suit to go get a job. It's all done on web-based, internet, electronics, apps and phones, etc. So as we started to apply those techniques, we started to have some real barriers in regards to how do we get this inside an institution in a safe and secure way. Again, I'm going back to timing. I went to the National Correctional Industry Association's training conference, and they have vendors there. The vendor that was there, Geographic Solutions, ta-da, just so happens, and I have to say that, I was hesitant when my coworkers kept saying, hey, this gentleman over here really wants to talk to you about, something, and and I didn't really know what it was about, to be honest with you. But something in the back of my mind says I should go talk to this individual and see what they have to say. So I went down there and started having a conversation with Richard Boone, and the skies parted and the sun came out and the rain stopped, and I learned about a whole bunch of things in regards to workforce development that I had no clue about that was even going on inside my state. And so with his help and his knowledge about training me about what was going on, I started putting these pieces together. I expected to be there about 10 minutes. I was there for a couple hours probably over the next course of a couple days of having this conversation. So I learned about, our internal California processes, which is called CalJobs. I learned about how the involvement in our workforce investment boards and grants and developing a software that GSI was doing. I learned about the EDD, or our Employment Development Department, our Labor Department, and how that relationship works. And so I just basically started putting those pieces together right then and there of all the experiences. And I think that if this meetup would have happened 2 years earlier or 2 years later, then I'm not sure that this thing actually would have come together. So I just started putting the pieces together with my experience and the right people at the right time, and started putting lines on paper. Next thing you know, I had a drawing of a star. It was pretty amazing.
That is pretty cool. I bet it was super exciting watching this come from a once-a-year initiative to becoming what it is now. And shout out Richard Boone. He's on our sales team here at Geographic Solutions. So next, we're just going to watch a quick 3-minute clip from CBS News Sacramento. News reporter Ashley Sharp covers a story from within a Solano state prison and showcases the success of some of CalPIA's work within the prison.
Well, new tonight, one of the biggest hurdles for inmates when they get out of prison is finding a job.
And without work, many who've been incarcerated for years simply have no chance at successfully transitioning back into society.
But a new program inside California state prisons is working to change that. Your reporter covering Solano County, Ashley Sharp, shows us where it all started.
From locked up to looking up, this is a first-of-its-kind program in California connecting those incarcerated to jobs while they're still behind bars. And it was all started right here at Solano State Prison. Thousands of inmates across California have jobs inside state prison walls. From valuable skills like working with steel.
I love welding. I love teaching other people how to weld.
To the lens lab, where glasses for Medi-Cal patients
ready to go.
Are repaired by hand.
Stack it right here.
Some finding purpose decades into a sentence.
Yeah, it gives me an opportunity to be proud of what I do. Just be a person that's helpful out there versus a person that's tearing down the community.
But if they can't actually get a job, then at the end of the day, what good is any of it?
CalPIA, the California Prison Industry Authority, with a big announcement Wednesday.
It starts right now.
Kicking off a new program in state prisons that, for the first time, helps inmates apply for and secure jobs in the real world months before they're released. Meaning some will walk out of prison and right into the workplace.
Doug got out of prison on April 17th. 5 days after returning home, he started his job with a large nationwide manufacturing company.
Fausto Basso hopes to be the next.
I viewed 17 jobs. I applied for 8 of them.
With just 70 days left on his sentence, he has a resume, interview skills, and possibly a job.
My father asked me in Italian, "Are you scared?" And I said, "No, Dad, I am anything but scared."
Confident he's not the same man who came here in 2006.
Prison is the best thing that ever happened to me because it got my attention to actually get myself on the right track and to add to society instead of taking away.
CalPIA says 85% of inmates in their job programs do not return to prison. A seamless transition back into society, finding freedom in forging a new future.
Well, since the Entry to Employment Network was launched at Solano State Prison, it's now expanded to 4 others, including San Quentin. They hope to have it offered statewide by next year.
Oh, and that was great, Rusty. That was a really awesome video and segment from the Sacramento CBS News. And I wanted to talk about a few of the things that you had said in the last question. Is that one, things have changed significantly with searching for a job, and I can remember here in Florida going like shopping center to shopping center with a resume, and that that was years and years ago. But it has definitely changed. So I reflect those sayings. Going into our next question, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the nature of CalPIA as an organization and what makes it different, and what can other states or localities do to reflect this model?
Yeah, I had to, I gave that question quite a bit of thought, Evans, and it's a good question. To me, it all starts with the staff. But in regards to a little bit higher level than that, CalPIA has an industry employment program, otherwise known as IEP. And inside that department, we organize all of our certifications, apprenticeships, pre-apprenticeships. They give us purpose or meaning or a soul to organization, meaning they audit what we do to make sure that it has purpose and meaning to the outside world. So the fact that what they're doing out in the field, they get qualified and recognized and stored in a database, and we can operate from that premise. And then we hand all that information over to the incarcerated individual in the final process during transition. So when they go to that transition phase under IEP, that's something that we have that I think really makes us different, and then also ties to the E2E, because that's what we've tied this to. Our workforce development coordinators, or otherwise we call them WDCs, which is our staff that are out there in the field doing this, is truly what made this different, is because they can actually apply it boots on the ground, sit with the individual, talk to them about applying for a job, create a resume, talk about all these things, and see face to face what's going on with them and help coach them through or mentor them through this, not only transition period, but looking for a job. So, those two things right there are, to me, we're right at the top of the pile in regards to, making it different. So if you're trying to put together something like this from an organizational standpoint, call it what you may in your own locations or state. But if you don't have that mechanism to apply this and manage it and measure it and make sure that it's relatable to the field, so ongoing, because we know that, just like you said, Evan, when we applied for jobs when we were 16 years old and how we apply for jobs today are completely different. And if we don't have the mechanisms in order to help develop into that, we're always going to be behind. So we're never going to be up to speed on those things. So those two things were at the top of my list. The next thing that I would talk about is invest in your IT infrastructure. Invest in your IE infrastructure. I'm going to say it one more time because I believe in the rules of 3. If I say it 3 times, it's important. Invest in your IT infrastructure over time. If you need to start today, start today. If you don't have the IT infrastructure in your areas to help with this particular process, you're going to be it's going to be a hard lift, because there have to be secure ways for those incarcerated individuals to use computers, to experience web-based technology, how to work in an application. It can be done, but we take it for granted every day when we jump on our phones or jump on the computer, like today, having this conversation in the web world, that we don't realize that they don't have a lot of those accesses. And if they do, they're very limited and they're not real. And so the point where they can't carry that training over to them. So the infrastructure and regards to the security of that IT infrastructure is very important. And I say that number 2 because we've been working on that for at least the last 10 years to get where we're at today. It just didn't happen overnight. PIA offers real on-the-job training, real certifications, free and full apprenticeship qualifications. It links directly to meaningful employment. So we try to produce goods and services and then match those certs, pre-apprenticeships and full apprenticeships to exactly match up So the fact that when they fill out those resumes or job applications, they're matching up with what the employer wants to do. The next one is that we spend a lot of time on, and I know that some of our listeners can reflect on this, and this is education of our Department of Correction staff. They really need to understand what the industry professionals in the IT world are doing on security, and they need to have a comfort level. We had the opportunity about 10 years ago to offer what we call 7370 coding training program. We're one of the first of its kind to actually put coding training with incarcerated individuals behind the wall. That kicked the door open in regards to training the Department of Corrections, getting them educated, and taking them to the professionals to understand that what we were doing from an IT perspective could be done. I also didn't take no for an answer, but we constantly just kept on and training and getting people to understand, because it really was just the fact that people didn't know or understand what the world was doing in regards to security and internet and the process. So it did take some time, but educating correctional-minded staff about working in an internet environment that's secure is sometimes like trying to mix oil and water together. It can be done, but it takes a lot of persistence and patience to do it. So explore, research, understand, learn. Just listen sometimes about all your existing resources that are available to you. I sometimes, as a bad habit of mine, is just taking things and running and not just sometimes stopping and listening. And so I found in the last couple years, as wisdom starts to take over my time, I'm now doing a better job with that. And I didn't realize about all the services and all the people around me and all the other agencies and departments that were on the same page of doing that. So make sure we do that at the very end. That I think that makes us different is the fact that we actually stop to, listen to all the other professionals that are around us so that we could, bring this project on and not do it by ourselves.
That's great. And I hear a lot of super important and valuable things here. And I truly hope that the folks who are listening right now are able to take something from this away and apply it to their jobs or to their roles, their brands. But, definitely infrastructure is important, the right technology. Listening is a huge, skill that is really impactful for a lot of different things in life and in work life as well. So without further ado, I would like to get to our next video, which is going to be the second part of the segment from the CALPIA video that showed on CBS 13 Sacramento.
Last night, we first told you about a new program in California state prisons that helps inmates land jobs in the real world while they're still behind bars. In fact, one man who was incarcerated for 20 years says this would have made his transition from prison to the workplace much easier. Your reporter covering Solano County, Ashley Sharp, shares how he beat the odds, found success, and now hopes to inspire others.
How you guys doing, brothers?
Robert Castaneda saw the vision for his new life inside Solano State Prison.
I did 20 years in here, man.
Oh, did you really?
Yes, yeah, and I got my certification here.
The Lens Lab, home to an optical program through CalPIA, teaching inmates to be opticians.
Now I'm in the optical industry, so that's awesome. Stay focused, man.
Robert is back where it all started. This time, a free man with a message.
I've had so much success that I get to spread that good energy out to people and let people know that it is possible, that they can do it.
Today, he's a homeowner and a licensed optician, thanks to the skills he learned in prison. But life on the outside, after 2 decades behind bars, didn't come easy.
I was a bit clueless, but I did have a mindset that I would make it.
Wednesday, Robert shared his story as CalPIA rolled out a new program piloted at Solano State Prison that for the first time allows inmates to apply for and secure jobs in the real world months before their release.
Getting out, I just didn't know where to start.
The Entry to Employment Network wants to change that, easing the transition back into society and the workplace for men like Robert and soon-to-be-released inmate Fausto Basso.
The job search is fantastic. It seems as if it's endless opportunities for somebody like me.
Through the program, he's already applied for 8 jobs.
This reduces my anxiety to where I know that I'm going to get job offers and I'm going to get work when I get out.
From locked up to looking up.
So there's hope, guys, you know?
Hoping those incarcerated will see one story of redemption, then write their own.
Wow, making a difference. The Entry to Employment program was piloted at Solano State Prison this year and is now at 4 state prisons, including San Quentin. They hope to have it up and running at every prison in California by next year.
Nice, that was a good video. On to the third question for Rusty. How has it helped having an integrated state system in CalJobs to make E2E's launch successful?
Yes, I got yes and great big words with an exclamation point. This was a big undertaking. You know, I said things real fast and said I could do all these things and finally realized that, you know, this is going to be bigger than myself and probably my direct supervisors. We're going to have to figure out a way to, you know, do this. So if you take back, you know, step up to your 50,000 foot view as leaders, and this is a big undertaking to view it. But in order to be able to pull this off is to section it off and give several responsibility areas to others and just manage it from a project management standpoint. For those that, you know, want to attempt something like this, I highly recommend assigning a group or a person as a project manager and keeping everyone on track and tasks, because it can get sometimes complicated and lose track of those bookmarks that you need to come back to or make sure you get those tasks. So making sure we do that is important. GSI and our Employment Development Department, you know, they work together to put California's CalJobs together. GSI having a separate operating system that can be used with incarcerated individuals and inside the institution made it, you know, easier because the fact that there was a relationship already there that GSI had introduced me to in regards to the CalJobs, and the fact that GSI was helping operate CalJobs. And in regards to the communication, there shouldn't have been any issue because they had developed another working platform to help work inside the institutions. That just so happens to, again, I was listening to Richard again telling me about a grant that our local workforce investment boards were working on of working inside of an institution. So again, all that communication networks of being able to work together, finding all the right pieces, we all had the same milestones that we're trying to work towards. It just, we had all these separate silos and we were so focused on what we were doing, we didn't take time to listen. So finally, we got everyone in the same room and be able to integrate that system to launch it, you know, is what made this successful. If PI had to do it, I'm sure we would have done it eventually, just knowing our tenacity, but it would have taken a lot longer to get through the steps and hoops to try to pull it off. So all working on the same goal, breaking down, you know, the same silos was how we integrated the systems and letting everyone know. We had some communication pieces in out probably in some of the listeners that are on here that when you talk to each other, you'll find out you're usually talking about the same thing. You're just using different vernacular. Hopefully so far I haven't used too many abbreviations or acronyms because we tend to all put our own, you know, spin on words. So, but if you can sit down and talk about, you know, the workforce part of it and figure out what each of are talking about, we have a lot in common, and that will help pull off that that such integrated system.
That's great. And I love to hear that the partnership went well and it was beneficial.
Yeah, and you know, Lisa, I went back to that very beginning part where, you know, P2E, again, timing helped with this. In my career, I have never seen or experienced or been part of something that had 6 or 7 different state agencies all working together towards the same mission. And so that in itself broke down a lot of barriers. So that statewide prison to employment initiative helped get my foot in the door to know that it was possible. So if others are thinking about that, maybe taking that smaller approach and trying to work with other agencies to, you know, have a few wins and successes under your belt for a year or so to show the need and success might help you get to that next E2E level of more leaving something in place.
Okay, that was a great answer. Evan, moving on to you for the next question.
All right, thank you, Lisa. And Rusty, so I wanted to know, up until this point, and I know, it's very early in the launch and things of that nature, but I did hear you that it took quite a few years, in the lead up. I think you maybe had said around 10 years of, just kind of build up and lead up. And so up until this point, what has been your favorite moment so far in leading up and launching the E2E network?
Yeah, and it's, Evan, that buildup is interesting because you look at the buildup that it required to get here, and that original buildup didn't have anything to do with what I'm doing now. But that infrastructure was there in order to give us that structure that gave us the ability to make good decisions or changes later. So I'm glad that at that point we didn't. I think some of it was luck, and some of it was that we had resources available time, so we built a little more into it, hoping that someday we would use it. And it just so happens that we found a use to that. But, in the highlight of all of this, I just ended with Lisa's comment over there is getting multiple agencies in the private sector to agree and work together on the same task in the same room and accomplish the same goal is like amazing to me. If you were to probably tell me that 5 or 10 years ago, I would have said you were crazy. That's never going to happen. For everyone to get on the same page and work together and accomplish the same mission and have the same goals, I just didn't believe in that. But after experiencing all this, that is kind of like one of my biggest things that I'm going to take away from this is seeing everyone work together towards a true civil service mission that we all believe in. So that was a great accomplishment and goal for me.
I love. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Russell.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I love the collaboration. Just describing the collaboration because I'm a huge believer in collaboration. So.
Yeah, and it's amazing how when I can get over myself and bring all that stuff down and just be part of the movement and listen and try to interject to those things. It's very humbling.
Excellent.
The second part that I have is being asked to solve or improve employment processes by incarcerated individuals, wardens, Department of Corrections staff, PIA staff, other department agencies, etc. And then showing up with a product that meets all of their needs is it doesn't usually happen where you ask, you do, you accomplish, and you complete it. And people are standing around with their mouths hanging up and going, wow, that actually went all the way through from idea to action, right? The excitement and amazement that they have on their faces is priceless when you bring that to a warden or an incarcerated individual sits down at the terminal and turns around and looks at you and says, this is really happening. I'm applying for a real job. They just can't, they didn't have that fathom because they've been told all this time to live in theory and kind of a non-reality thing, close your eyes and imagine, and all of a sudden they're here looking at a real job description and a real job in their community that's going to give them a livable wage. They're just like, wow. You heard Basso say in the movie or in the video about how it restored his confidence and his ability to think positively about when he gets out. And so, I want to just touch on that point for just a minute, Evan, because in regards to the importance of the success of this project, yes, the ultimate goal is for them to get a job leaving our program. But I think more importantly is the fact that we've trained them how to get a job, how to apply, how to deal with rejection, how to deal with the process, and that it only takes one yes before you get a bunch of no's is way far more important because most of them are going to take this when they're incarcerated, get out, log into CalJobs, and continue their job search in most cases. But we need to focus on the fact that we've got them to that point, the fact that they're going to continue that process when before they had to somehow find their own internal motivation in some way, shape, or size, like Robert Castaneda did, where he was kind of lost for 6 weeks and couldn't find his way, and finally he found it. He said it really would have helped him if this program would have been available to him. He would have saved those 6 or 8 weeks of wandering around trying to find what to do. So I just wanted to put that little piece in there because that's important, because the milestones of the measurement, in most cases, people are going to say, how many individuals did you get jobs before they leave? Well, that is I think that's the happy dance and the touchdown and everything else if you can get that. But more importantly, the matrix to me is that you get them enrolled, you get them how to use it, you get them applying for jobs, and then you watch them develop and use the system as they get out and develop themselves and then get the job. Because we've all been in these situations in our careers and our lives of applying for jobs. We always don't get the first one. And sometimes it's pretty hard to deal with that, rejection of why didn't they want to hire me? I'm just as qualified as they are. Well, we're helping with that process. And so that's part of that personal development, giving those individuals confidence and understanding the system of how it works when they get out of there. That's why Wasso said that in there in regards to he's not scared anymore, is because he was uncertain of what his future would hold because he didn't know how to get a job and how I'm going to feed and clothe and take care of myself or even my family. But now at least he's got a direction. He's at least got a target to shoot at. I use that analogy with my staff all the time, saying, look, if we don't at least give them a target to shoot at, you're guaranteed to miss because there's no target. So we got to at least give them that. And so this helps with that. So then moving on to my next bullet here is first the institution that came online and had a first registered user and then actually to be able to apply for a real job. For me, it was just like the part where you moved from this theoretical world of virtualism where what this thing's supposed to look like, and now I actually have something that's in front of for people to use really hit me hard in regards to as an accomplishment. So the fact that you actually have a user on there, using the system and actually came to be over several years of development between EDD, GSI, CALPIA, and all their partners to now have that individual in front of them was the aha moment in regards to that really hit me between the eyes. But that it's not theory any longer, it actually is something applied. Then of course, icing on the cake. You saw my general manager, Will Davidson, made a speech there in the video. That was the first success story. Now, everyone asked me if that was planned. No, it was. I don't know what happened in regards to divine intervention, but for some reason, it happened at Solano. We had our first group go through. We had our first set send in resumes. In March, he applied for a job with a resume, an individual. That employer contacted CalPIA through our hotline and our email. We had a conversation about what was going on. They said, not a problem. When that individual is released, set him up, call this number. We'll take it from there. Matter of fact, they said, even if this job is closed, we will find him a job based upon his qualifications. He is so well qualified to come work for us. So on April 14th, this individual was released. Exactly 1 week later, he started his first day on the job working in a major manufacturing home construction modular job with the metal fabrication and construction skills that we taught him, and is still employed there today. Matter of fact, we tried to get him to our kickoff event, and we couldn't get him there because he was working too much. He was working overtime, and they really liked his skills. They weren't able to let him off of work, and so those sort of things. But needless to say, that happened to be our first success story, and I'm sure there'll be many more to come after that. But obviously, in regards to my levels, that's how I kind of placed all those things.
That's incredible, and I think us, too, as even as colleagues, as teammates at Geographic Solutions, watching that video and the story from Faso, I think that was impactful, super impactful to a lot of us to hear that the elimination of fear and the hope that will change, a lot of factors for recidivism. I think that's really incredible. We have just a couple more questions, and I'd like to move on to our next segment. And so what I would like to do and what I love to do, I think this is a super fun thing that gives everybody involved. It kind of gets maybe the blood flowing. I don't know. This could be like the part where you like stretch it out, like just kind of, do a little stretch. Take out your phone, stretch your hands to your pocket and take out your phone and hold it up to the screen and go ahead and scan that QR code. Or if you don't want to scan the QR code, just go to slido.com and type in 6330184 and type in an answer. In a few words, describe what trends you've been observing within reentry and second chance employment in your locales or in your state, your organizations. And let's all just take a moment to type in a couple of different things. So
Rusty, I'd just like to make a comment while people are typing their answers. I love your passion for the topic, and it's really inspiring hearing you talk about it. And, I can't wait to see where this grows and the more success stories to come.
Yeah, I think we have planted a seed, as the farmer would say, and now we're just adding a little water and sunshine, and I think it's going to do some of that on some, because I think there's employers, employees, and people that really want to get on board with this. They just didn't know how, and hopefully this mechanism is going to help provide that.
And okay, we're getting some great participation, and thank you so much, folks, for participating in this poll. I really love to see this. And there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of different things that folks are, sharing, and I think that it's important to, it sounds like there is still some hesitation among employers. I think that that's definitely something that maybe a couple of folks are talking about here, and Rusty. Actually, Lisa, I will wait on this question, but I see it. Okay, so exact facilities, not knowing of assistance. So,
Well, Rusty, going off this question, what can you describe some of the trends you are seeing in reentry employment, and did any of those trends help you with CalPIA to launch E2E, and what will any future trends help steer E2E?
I guess, I'm speaking from, from my own area in California. Obviously, it's a different place than our other listeners are coming from, and I'm sure they have their own set of challenges and issues that they're addressing as well. But from my perspective, and over the last 30 years of watching this develop, I am seeing continuous moving in the right direction and open discussion of hiring reentry candidates. And the fact that we are, breaking down those mantras of the fact that, we're only teaching individuals non-relatable skills, that we're just doing busy work, and that we're not really giving training in the professional and human skills area, which CalPI does a lot of that in itself, of meaning, how do I interact with others, and how do I, do I call in sick to my boss? They don't know these things. So when we start to develop those sort of discussions with employers, and they understand that the caliber and the real on-the-job training that we're providing, we're knocking down more of those barriers. And I see those trends slowly but surely melting away. Is it moving at the pace that I would like it to? Absolutely not. But I think that CalPIA and the rest of our listeners and participants in this world, we just have to be, we have to send an accurate, persistent, constant message and talk to those individuals and try to have a professional conversation about what do you know about this and how can I clear this up and try to, get this. So I see that moving in that direction. I also noticed that I've heard for the last 10 years about how do I get involved in the reentry employment side. I'm finding more and more businesses of how do I participate and how do I get to this particular type of employee, because sometimes they're not even thinking in that mindset. And when you bring it to their attention, you're like, wow, I can have a licensed, credentialed, certified healthcare facility maintenance cleaner to clean my hospital when they come out. How do I get my hands on those sort of things? They just had no idea that that's what we train them on, right? So this particular E2E network, I want to make sure that I reiterate to the listeners as well, is that this also provides the other side of the coin, where you can have the ability to send your employers to an area where they can actively participate. So that way, you as an individual, group, or agency, if you're trying to manage your own lists of reentry employers, I can tell you from my own experience, if you haven't experienced it already, it's very difficult. It's like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. It's like as soon as I get to the one side of it when I'm building a list, I have to start all over again and go back and repaint it over again. It takes a lot of time and effort to try to manage those reentry businesses and employers to do that. So if you can partner with somebody like our labor department at EDD or some other group or agency that's in your area that's already kind of managing that, and you just can lack into that and let them manage it, and all you're doing is trying to help those reentry folks, it will take a huge lift off of your staff and resources to try to do that. So that would be one part. The other part I had here, Lisa, was doubling down on web-based internet and phone app process. Those are the trends. It's not going away. It's getting farther down that path. So in regards to the trends, if you're behind now, tomorrow you're even farther behind if you haven't started to do something. So it's not going to go away. I have a feeling there's something out there that we haven't even known or invented about in regards to job search and people and businesses, employers. Who knows what they're going to come up with? But I guarantee you it's going to have something to do with that phone and that app and your computer, more than likely, in just regards to the way this world works and manages. So I'm seeing that trend go farther down that path, not away from. I also wanted to show in future trends, and I kind of put this in here in regards to, if you paid attention to it, I called the E2E network. Well, the network gives other abilities to put inside this entry to employment, and that is things such as certifications, training, testing, videos, credentialing. Everything is moving online. So we as reentry specialists and correctional industries are dealing with a very difficult process of trying to get that stuff inside the institutions to get the most up-to-date credentialing, certification, apprenticeships that we can, but it's all electronic. And so by us having this E2E network is going to allow us the ability to start to finally shift. I know you guys are going to laugh at me, from the Scantron and the pencil and the number 2 pencil, that we got to try to move away from that old part of it into something where they're actually taking exams and studying online and doing those sorts of things that most of us have all really taken advantage of over 5, 10, 15 years, where we're really behind in that sector in regards to being inside of an institution. So that trend is moving farther in the other direction, where we're finding it harder and harder to get licensed training certificate apprenticeship stuff in a paper, book, pencil format, and it's moving down this network line. So hopefully this E2E will provide us that additional platform.
Yeah. Well, those are really great points and trends to point out. I think for your first point, going off of awareness and collaboration, employers may not be aware of these opportunities and the opportunity to hire these people, and then also that collaboration with other departments so that you have the ability to focus on these people coming from the prisons, and then also the web-based. It's really interesting to look at that, because the whole world is going online and they don't really have access to that much stuff, and so getting them access and giving them that network is really beneficial.
Yeah.
Evan?
Okay, so have one last question, and then we'll go into some Q&A from some of the questions that have been asked by the audience. And thank you so much, everybody who is putting questions from the Slido to just our regular question chat. We really appreciate it. So, Rusty, I have one last question, and that is, how has Geographic Solutions as an organization and the folks who work at our companies helped to make entry to employment a beacon of hope for incarcerated individuals as they search for secure employment? If you could just say a few words for anybody who's listening from Geographic Solutions on how the impact has been made.
Sure. So I'm going to kind of break this up into, the what and how. GSI, they know and how, and the ability to create and operate the systems they offer. They have a proven track record, and it speaks for themselves. Honestly, we first considered this partnership because we wanted to connect to CalJobs. GSI operates the software for CalJobs. So the fact that if we're going to add, their software, which I think we're calling it Voss Rio for short, Evan. So if we're using Voss Rio or that particular lingo for their software and its institutional use, if we're trying to use one of the two, it just made sense. It checked a lot of boxes about the what and the how. I mean, in regards to when you're looking at your scope of work and checking all those boxes, it just streamlined the communication piece. I didn't have to worry about one thing lining up with the other. I didn't have to worry about my Apple device communicating with a Google device. Is that easy enough to?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I have to be honest, because that's really what really got, saying, well, that was the first connection point for me, because I don't have to worry about all of that, communication piece. It automatically marries. It's proven. They're already doing it. It's one of what I want to go with. Now, for those that are in the government procurement process, we all understand that it can be lengthy and has a very long book of rules that we have to follow, and we're required to select, the best fit through our scope of work process. And so we had to do that, and that's the thing that we did in regards to, helping with the how and the what that GSI did. But I wanted to make another note, and I think from my own personal way, I couldn't use this in the government selection process, but another note I wanted to say, we normally, as in our everyday lives, purchase things about why. So why are they doing this versus just what are they doing? And I'm a huge Simon Sinek fan, if any of you know of him. And he always talks about it starts with why. It's not what we do, but it's why we do it. And so I really got inspired by GSI because they got behind this why. They truly wanted to help and change individuals' lives through operations of their software. It wasn't just, hey, let's do some mathematical computations and write some script and put up a web page. They really demonstrated to me that it was important for them that they can positively impact these individuals upon return to their communities and families. So I just wanted to end on that note.
Nice. Thank you.
It's, timely that you should mention Simon because it's Start With Why. I actually have that book at home, and we were just talking about that inside our organization not too long ago. So very timely. And I do highly regard Simon as well. I'm going to just look at some of the questions that have come in, and thank you for asking so many questions. We will definitely, if not answer these within the next couple of minutes, round back to try and get these questions answered after this presentation is over. A lot of really great information. This is Jeremy saying that it was really a lot of great information. Jack asks, and Rusty, if you don't know, if the answer to the question is something that you want to pass on or something like that, just let us know and we'll go from there. But Jack asks, how long are returning citizens tracked in general?
Normally, it's 3 years. In regards to recidivism data, is a 3-year time period that it's traditionally used and accepted in data studies.
Cool. Thank you.
Anything after that, we don't normally track. But in regards to the E2E network, we're having the ability to track it longer if we need to. But in regards to figuring out the impact and return to custody part of it is 3 years.
Okay, and then our next question is from Dana. Are these job seekers running into any issues with employers not wanting to hire those with a background?
It's a tough question because people don't normally come out and tell you that. So I hope not, but we can't, I can't be naive and say that it doesn't happen. I'm sure it does, but I've not ran into anyone saying I haven't hired somebody because of their criminal background. So if they do, they haven't shared it with me, or I haven't heard the story come up very often. But I have heard the urban legend that does happen.
This question is from Dorinda, and Dorinda asks, does each prison have a WDC? Is it one per prison or industry? I guess along the lines of, and I guess Dorinda, if you wanted to follow up, would WDC be like a workforce development center or something along those lines? I guess
that's a workforce development coordinator she's referring to. Every institution that we have in California has a workforce development coordinator assigned to it, either on site or remotely. But sometimes they can be far apart in regards to distance. So we just have to manage the resources we have to cover them either in person or remotely, but they do the same job at every institution.
Very well. And just scanning through some more questions here. And, maybe just a comment, but from Mary is just kind of commenting, and maybe this is kind of like on the employer side of things, but they say that, people that have friends that own companies seem to be a good way in so far. So that's good to know. And I think definitely that's always a way that you can go, just whether it's second chance or reentry employment, or even just employment in general, definitely having that in or that referral can be great. So I guess
that's one thing, Evan, I don't think that's ever changed over time.
Yeah.
Is the fact that if you know somebody that can give you a reference or the ins and outs of how to get into this particular line of work is definitely a good way to go.
Networking
Absolutely.
is everything.
Yes, it is.
Okay, I think we are out of time for questions because we are just going to finish up the webinar. But if you have any unanswered questions, we have our contact information up on the screen here. Feel free to reach out to us, Evan, or me about any geographic solutions, or Voss Rio related questions or Rusty about any CALPIA or E2E questions, feel free to reach out to us. And we will also be sending a video of the webinar to everyone who attended and registered. And yeah.
It's been a real pleasure, and thank you for having me on and let me share the story of what we did here, and hopefully it can help others. And if anybody needs any help or conversations about it, I'm here to help anytime.
Yes,
And
thank you for,
yes,
thank
you. Lisa, my bad. Rusty, I would be remiss if I didn't let you know that we will actually be in California starting next week. So in Los Angeles. So if you happen to be there, let's chat. We'll be in LA for the first of 3 regional conferences, and following up with Austin, Texas, and then Miami, Florida, July 30th through 31st. This is kind of like a smaller scale version of the Workforce Technology Conference, but still packed with the same amount of information. So we sincerely hope to see you at one of these locations coming up here in the next couple of weeks. You may even see me there. So without further ado, Lisa, take us home.
Well, Rusty, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on today's webinar. You had some really great answers, and it was genuinely inspiring listening to the success CalPIA and the new E2E network has already had. And thank you to everyone who attended and listened. We appreciate you, and we hope you attend our next webinar.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you, Rusty. Thanks, Lisa.